Bonjour mes enfants. C'est votre uncle. Yes, it's Uncle Dan the Vinyl Man back with another episode of Uncle Dan's Vintage Vinyl. Here tonight to talk some more about the male gaze, which came up, I'll explain how it came up. The concept of the male gaze, I know I did cover it in a video some time ago, and if I remember, I'll put a link in the description below so you can watch something else that's boring. Anyway, in that video I talked about a couple of albums. I started off talking about this album, Music to Watch Girls By, which utterly embodies the male gaze with these four men looking lustfully at the young woman who looks prepubescent, well, barely pubescent to me, or perhaps even prepubescent. She's holding a lollipop. She's very petite, and she's clearly, a lot of things to mark her as childlike. So there was that. That's the male gaze, and then there's this album, the Kirby Stone Touch. What are they thinking of touching? Yeah, let's reach out and touch someone, because it is a camera. This is looking down into the viewfinder of a vintage 6x6 Rolleiflex camera. I'd like to have one of those, by the way. If you have any and would like to send them to me, please let me know in the comments. These album covers really reflect, I think, quite literally the male gaze, the man looking out and possessing a woman through the gaze. In any event, a couple months ago, I bought a cheap turntable, cheap little JCPenney modular component systems. I think a 6210, if I remember the model number right. Got it for $20. Needed a belt and needed a stylus. And I think I did one of my cheapness, unbearable cheapness of Uncle Dan videos about that. Anyway, I bought it from this guy I know. He and I go back and forth about stuff. And when I tried it out, an album that I'd bought maybe the same day or right around then. In fact, I bought it the same day. And that album is Martin Denny's Exotica. And this is an album that's in the Exotica field, with a bunch of songs by Les Baxter on here. Les Baxter was really the kind of progenitor and inventor, the father of Exotica, which is sort of lounge music that combines some light pop music and exotic sounds, some sort of exotic, bells, gongs, stuff like that. And in Martin Denny's case, animal sounds and bird sounds and things like that. Anyway, I sent it to this, sent a short video of the turntable playing to my buddy Andy, and he said, looking at the woman, he said, "Man, I feel like she's doing me with her eyes." And I was like, "Yeah," and I was thinking about it, and of course she's not. This is instead the inversion, I think, of the male gaze, but it's the same sort of idea. That is, the gaze is actually here in this. The gaze is that of the woman reaching out, making herself sexually available to the man. That's what it's saying here. I very much coded as "I am sexually available to you," and here it's coded too with. With the Exotica thing, with this woman who's fair-haired, very blonde, and very fair, Northern European woman, but wearing this exotic looking thing here, this little teardrop thing, which we associate with Asian women of East Asia, that sort of thing, especially Southeast Asia. So there's but it does suggest that the woman is sexually available to the man, and she is othered. She's made one of the others, despite being fair, having a fair complexion. She's made one of the others there. Another example of that is Martin Denny's Quiet Village. Quiet Village was also, I believe, a Les Baxter song. In this one, we have another European woman. Very much, big focus on the eyes there, and on the bassoons as well. You kind of can't overlook those. At least I can't. But anyway, again, coded as sexually available, coded as exotic, as other, but also coded as familiar, which is actually, accurate for the music. The music has some codings as exotic, as being from Asia in general, Asia in particular, rather, but is actually European music, European American music, just with some trappings of the Asian. Here's another example. This is Les Baxter, one of his early ones, Ports of Pleasure. I did one on this called Portholes of Pleasure, I'm afraid. You can see there the woman's gaze, and this woman is indeed coded entirely as other. She is coded as either probably Southeast Asia, with the steeples back there, which may also be coded for something else. And then on the back, the Ports of Pleasure, which look to me, it's like, huh? Anyway, I call it Portholes of Pleasure. And the line back here that I think is great. Here, in an album of compositions by Mr. Baxter, he calls forth fascinating impressions of the mysterious East, those small dots on the globe where one's index finger lingers longest. And I'm thinking that, they're talking about, some other dots on a couple of globes where your fingers might linger. And again, this woman is coded as sexually available. So the gaze, there's a gaze there, but she's coded as sexually available. By the way, excellent. This is a very good LP. Martin Denny stuff is good too. It's fun too. And there was quite a craze for this, especially with the different sorts of instrumentation. I have an Esquivel album playing in the background, which you might be able to hear. It also has a woman on it, but less obviously so. There are other examples of this male gaze thing here, and I'll show you those, and I'll have to take a break in a minute here. This is an Andre Castellanets, and I've never taken the price tag off. It may not come off. I'll Never Fall in Love Again. And again, I mean, this woman, of course, is coded entirely. She's marked entirely as, Northern European, American, English American, but the eyes there have it. There is the gaze, but she, let's be clear. She isn't really gazing at you to take possession of you. She is a recipient of the male gaze. This is really a boring album. Most of Andre Castellanets' stuff was really boring. Here's another one. This is one of the first Castellanets albums I bought. Again, this one's pretty beat, and I think I gave a couple of bucks for it. But again, lovely young woman, very much, Northern European, with, or American, very much coded that way. Again, the impression that she is looking at the viewer, but actually she's being made available to the viewer. It's an inversion of the male gaze. Now I'm going to take a break and start a new segment. So I thought about these albums and thinking about, don't you often see women on albums? And let's consider this album. Lana Del Rey, Born to Die, where Del Rey, Lana Ms. Del Rey, is looking very much at you. She is a lovely young woman, and looking and with the look, she's got the sort of the lipstick look of this gal, but this codes entirely differently. For one thing, she codes much more. I mean, she appears to be much less available. So is there an opportunity here for the male gaze? Well, no. This is one where she is looking at you. How do we know that? I'm not really sure, but it does code that way. Anyway, this is one where she is in charge of herself. That's the sense we get. She is. The look is going, from her to you. Of course, looks don't go out, but that's the way we understand them. It isn't unlike, this where there's, an apparent gaze by the woman, an apparent, erotic sort of gaze by the woman going out, welcoming you in, being very seductive. That's a fantasy. That's a male fantasy. This is a male fantasy of the woman doing that, making herself sexually available to the man. And if you want to, Ms. Del Rey's a little young for me, like a lot of young for me, but you can certainly imagine looking at her and saying, yes, she is desirable. But this doesn't give off the vibes of I am making myself sexually available to you, which is again a fantasy in the other record. So, just kind of interesting the way these code. Sort of a similar thing came up with is 2 albums with the same title, which is how I discovered both of them. 2 albums with the same title and a bit of the same motif, and that is Calendar Girl. So there's the one by Andre Castellanos, and then there's one by much better known, the one by Julie London, Calendar Girl, and I'm having a hard time seeing those. Anyway, the two Calendar Girl albums. This one, again, there's the woman's gaze, but this is a fantasy about her availability and her desiring to be available. Not that there aren't women who do that, but in addition to her being completely a fantasy because she's a painting, this is really, we get the sense this is not her sort of owning her sexuality, but her being an object of a male fantasy. Not a real great album, by the way. Kind of boring. Although the Castellanos albums typically sound pretty good. That is just in terms of the vinyl. In contrast, we have the Julie London, where we have Julie London posing for Calendar Girl pics. And, on the back too. And, Julie London had been a Calendar Girl. And at some point I'll do I keep thinking I'm going to do a video on Julie London, but I keep thinking I need to think more about her. Great vocalist, one of my absolute favorites. I actually bought this album to make fun of it. That's why I didn't buy a really pristine one. And also the really pristine ones are expensive, but I bought it just for the heck of it. There's also this the interior on this, which shows her lying back and very much whoops, wrong side. Very much making herself available, but it's clear that she is owning that. She is not being owned, she is owning it. Here's another, this is a CD, great CD, LeVay Smith, 1 Hour Mana, LeVay Smith and her Red Hot Skillet Lickers. And, she's lying there in a sexy brassiere and leggings, or maybe pantyhose, but leggings. And, with a look, she has and intentionally does have there quite the Betty Page look, the look of the great Betty Page, the great pinup gal. This is, by the way, a great album with on New Blowtop Blues. Danny Armstrong on trombone plays some of the nastiest, coolest sounding trombone you've ever heard. Oh my God, is it great! Anyway, just a real fun album. But like LaVey Smith, who is I believe still active, still performing in San Francisco. I got to know her in the early 2000s and saw her a couple of times live, and once in Seattle and once I think in Kirkland. I was living in Seattle at the time, and she was great. This CD is actually inscribed to, got her to sign it to. I had her sign a copy of it before, and then I had her sign this for my ex-wife, but my ex-wife left that with me because she didn't really care for LaVey Smith. But LaVey Smith owns her sexuality. Anyway, this is a little tour. This isn't about sound very much, although I'd say, having talked about it, great album, fun album. First one I ever got by Julie London, and it sold me on Julie London. I bought it to make fun of it. Instead, I came away thinking Julie London's really great, and she is. Lana Del Rey. This is actually, this is a very good album, and it sounds very good. I bought it just to see if I'd liked Lana Del Rey at all, and I thought I might not, but I was at Walmart and I wanted to buy some album, and I bought this. Sounds like I got back and I listened to it, and it's like, that's pretty decent. It's actually a pretty good album. The Martin Denny and the Martin Denny albums, these are very listenable, very fun, lightweight but very fun. And same is true for Les Baxter. Les Baxter's better than Martin Denny. Martin Denny probably sold more, but Les Baxter I think was better. The extra sounds, the burrs and things like that get a little goofy. Quiet Village, also very, very well worth listening. You can, by the way, find copies of this real easy, very cheap. The LaVey Smith, never out on vinyl, but out on CD, and I think you might still be able to get it. This may have been her, Fat Note Records, and it may have been hers. She never had a big label release. But great stuff. Great jazz folk vocalist, sort of a jump blues jazz. Hey, Uncle Dan the Vinyl Man. Some random thoughts spewing from my brain. Well, mes enfants, je dis à vous. Mes enfants, je dis toujours. Au revoir, mes enfants. Et vous êtes très beaux. Et vous êtes très gentils. Au revoir et aussi à bientôt.